BFC Live, the daily video and podcast series of Business of Cannabis. BFC Live highlights the companies, brands, people, and trends driving the global cannabis sector. Learn more at businessofcannabis.ca. Our BFC Live guest today is Susan Kumar. She is the Senior National Account Manager for Western Canada for Organigram, but she also transitioned into the cannabis industry with the help of the Mount Royal University Cannabis Education Program, and we wanted to connect. Susan Kumar, thank you for being here on BFC Live.
Thank you for having me, Jay. I'm excited.
I'm excited as well because we were chatting just for a sec before we came on, and I want to hear everything. But before we do everything, talk a bit about the job you have now and sort of what you were doing before you got to Organigram, let's say.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, so I'm a Senior National Account Manager for Organigram. Been with them for just over 2.5 years. Prior to getting into the cannabis industry, I actually worked for a number of CPG companies, so consumer packaged goods, for those who don't know. I worked for Campbell's, Mars, and Frito-Lay. So, obviously quite a deviation from going to consumer packaged to cannabis. But I have to say, I've been learning so much. I learn every day in the cannabis industry. Not to say I wasn't learning those companies, but I feel in the cannabis industry, there's always something new to learn, which is something that I really, really love. And one of the things that keeps me really kind of excited for this industry.
Well, it's funny because people who are in cannabis say we have a lot to learn from CPG. So
exactly. Yeah, I think there's a way to marry things up, and some things work and some things don't. But the fundamentals, I think, are there from a sales principle standpoint. So yeah.
So we're talking to you related to Mount Royal University and the Cannabis Education Program. This is a series of conversations that we've had with a whole slew of people, which has been amazing. But I want to hear from you, sort of how did you get to the MRU program, and sort of what courses did you take, and how did you integrate that into the job you have, sort of, and your background?
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, so I had actually seen that Amber on LinkedIn was promoting the MRU courses, and Amber's obviously the instructor, with the course, with the MRU course. So I looked it up, and they actually had an industry event night, so an info session, so obviously virtual. So join that virtual kind of conversation just to see, okay, what is this, cannabis retail marketing course about? And there was a chance to actually ask questions too. So one of my questions to Amber was, already working for a licensed producer, already being in this space, will this course be beneficial? And she said, absolutely. And one of the key things that she said is that it can really relate as I, work with retailers in the marketplace, the knowledge that I'm learning. So yes, I've read through, all the Alberta rules and regulations, maybe not so much Health Canada to a T, but this course really kind of gave that insight into more of the rules and regulations, and honestly, a better understanding of what some of the retailers have to go through from a retail marketing perspective, right? Sitting on the LP side and as more of a sales role, you don't really dive that deep into it. And that was one of the things that I was really excited to get to learn about. So, really attending that info session night was key to my decision in, kind of enrolling in the marketing course. So that was kind of like the first step. And then also hearing that the course, honestly, it kind of tailored around my schedule as well, because I'm working, as you know, Jay, this industry is moving at 1,000 miles a minute. And I'm like, okay, when am I going to have time for this? I have a 5-year-old. I have, I have a family to manage too. So it was great because the course material is there for you, and the modules are set up, and the assignments, you work on it, throughout the weekend or the evenings. So I'm like, this is perfect from a continuing ed perspective. And, I mentioned this before earlier, but, I haven't been to school since 2002. So I was a little bit scared at first, but then it's so comfortable. The platform is easy to use. It's nothing that's too daunting. So, from that perspective, I really, really, it was just a perfect fit for someone who's already in the cannabis industry.
Yeah, and we've had this conversation. Well, we had it with Amber in particular, and her perspective was there's something in it for everybody, but maybe particularly people who come to cannabis with a wealth of knowledge and experience like you did, but actually are also working in cannabis now or want to, because there's nuance to learn, there's new regulations to learn. You come to it with the best practices from CPG, that just aren't relevant to cannabis because they're either not allowed or slightly off. She was talking about, a regular retailer who has a corner store can do almost anything they want to advertise what they have inside the store. That's just not the case. And so there is this sort of learning. It's really perfect. It's like continuing education and professional development. And how do you sort of fold that into the work you do? One of the other things that I want to ask you about, because we had an event with the team, obviously, from Mount Royal. We talked to instructors. We talked to people working at licensed producers, large and tiny. People come to it with a deep background. People come to it very, late in life, let's say. One of the things that struck me, and one of the things that I think is special and growing at Mount Royal, is this idea that people who've been through the program are creating their own, let's say, community or connections, right? Like the network that's developed both among, even though most of it is remote, like you still feel connected to your instructors. You probably still feel connected to the other people in the course. And talk a little bit about that, because you must come across these people in your day-to-day work. And how does that translate into real life?
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the things is, with the course, they have a discussion board. So there's forums to discuss a topic. So, give an example of, something that you're seeing out in the marketplace. So it'd be kind of a generic kind of topic. And then there's a discussion board where everybody answers it. And so you're seeing other people's perspectives, which you may have not thought about before, where I had a lot of light bulb moments. I'm like, oh, I didn't even think about that. Or, oh, I didn't even know about, that retailer and that initiative that they're doing. And to your point, yes, it keeps you connected, right? You see these names pop up on LinkedIn. I'm like, oh, that person, took the course. And I think Serena was, I saw Serena's name pop up and she was mentioned in the info session. And, you read more about their backgrounds and stuff. And I really do feel like, yes, you do get a sense of that connectivity. And there are people from all across Canada too. So not everybody was based in Alberta. It was nice to see people giving different perspectives from different provinces as well. I deal with, Alberta, all of Western Canada. So it was nice to see, some perspectives from a BC perspective, because some of the, rules and regs are different there from a provincial standpoint. So, 100%, I think it definitely, kind of connects us and brings it all together. And I know this program will probably continue to evolve and grow, as time goes by as well, and which is really exciting. And the other two courses, I kind of looked at it. I'm like, I think I might be ready for another course. And and the I think it was the cultivation course. Even though I'm not directly doing stuff within that realm, it's just that learning and that understanding, and even QA, so I can understand maybe some of the lingo that my QA team is learning. You look and see there's a progression. There's the the retail marketing, and then there's also the other courses that can complement each other really, really well.
Well, that's funny, because Serena, who is at Because You Can, that's her micro cultivation cultivator, and she was saying that she started I think in the marketing course, and maybe then the cultivation course, and now that she's up and running, she's taking the QA course, because she wants to learn more, obviously, but also like these are things that that is the progression. Like she started with the marketing part, but then it's like, oh, we really should. The cultivation part, now that we're cultivating it, the QA part is good for everybody to know, but it really is this idea, there's infinite amounts to know, and sort of how you can do it on your time, but fits into your sort of professional education is really compelling. And I think I may know the answer to this, but say I am your colleague on the East Coast, right? I'm working the provincial, I'm working the Atlantic provinces. Like what kind of value do you think folks, regardless of where they live, even regardless of the role in the sector, can find from the Mount Royal program? Because what we've seen is it actually provides tremendous value to people all across the board.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, the way that the modules are kind of broken out is that there's different sections, right? So the first one is all about kind of compliance and regulatory, and also just looking at it from a Health Canada perspective. But then as you go on, you talk about loyalty programs, you talk about different advertising aspects, social media. So these are all things that pertain, doesn't matter where you're based in Canada, right? The rules are the rules from a federal standpoint. So, it would definitely benefit them, because these are things where you're applying these marketing techniques all around. These retailers, retailer landscape might look a little bit different in Atlantic Canada than out west, but the principles are still there of the things that you can and can't do per se. And then one of the things I really loved about the program is that you can actually either take existing retailers for your assignments, or you can make up your own. You can make up your own retail. I made up my own just to kind of push
Kumar's Cannabis.
Yeah, I wanted to call it that, but in Alberta, I couldn't do it. So There you go, right? I was so close to doing it. I'm like, well, I'm going to get dock points for this. But that's the thing that made you think outside the box. And then you're thinking to yourself, something simple like that, Jay, is like so poignant that the name, what you name your cannabis stores, we're over, I think in Alberta, like 579 stores. I'm like, how are these people coming up with unique names when you can't use your own name in it, right?
I know.
So,
Well, there's one near my house called Cozy Cannabis, which
yeah,
it's a tiny little store, which I do love, and it's
yeah.
it's very on brand for what they're doing there. Susan, I really want to thank you for making time, because obviously you're busy. You're between the courses and the family and the job and covering all of Western Canada. You must be really busy, but I appreciate the time, and we look forward to connect with you down the road. Maybe in Alberta at some point. We're much more likely to get to Alberta than meeting in New Brunswick at some point, but I look forward to meeting you in person. Thanks for taking time.
Yes, me too. Thank you very much, Jay.
Thank you for joining us on B of C Live today. We're able to do what we do thanks to our ongoing partners, including Cannabis at Work, Cannabis Benchmarks, Can Delta, Headset, Gallagher, and Torque and Main.